The Lord of the Rings is the greatest trilogy ever made. These are my favorite movies of all time, by far, and they truly have one of the best casts ever put together. So today we're ranking the top 25 acting performances in the trilogy. And I'm not going to lie, this was actually really difficult to rank. Now you might disagree with some of these, and yeah, a few might surprise you, but this is just my opinion. I'm basing this purely on acting performance and overall presence, like who really owns the scenes they're in. So this isn't about power levels or favorite characters, it's purely about the acting. So, without further ado, let us begin. Alright, starting off the list at number 25, we have John Bach as Madril. Madril is a Gondor lieutenant under Faramir, and you mainly see him during the defense of Osgiliath. What stands out about his performance is how natural and grounded it feels. He doesn't overdo anything, it's very subtle, but you can see the tension, the urgency, and the fear in the way he speaks and reacts. He really plays the role well, and you can feel that sense of experience, like an older, battle-worn soldier who's been through it all and knows what they're up against. And while he is a minor character, his death does hit a little, perhaps more than expected, and it really reinforces the sense of doom for the men of Gondor. Coming in at number 24, we have Martin Sokas as Celeborn. And you might recognize the actor. You may have seen him in movies like The Bourne Supremacy as one of the assassins, or as a villain in The Equalizer. And he brings the same kind of controlled intensity here. You only see him briefly in Lothlorien alongside Galadriel when the Fellowship arrives. He's one of the elven leaders guiding them during that part of the story. His performance is very calm and composed. He carries that quiet authority you'd expect from an ancient elven lord. Very measured, very deliberate. He also has that slightly superior manner in the way he speaks and carries himself, which fits perfectly with the elven portrayal. Even with very limited dialogue, he has a strong presence, and the way he holds himself makes the character feel important and believable within the world. Coming in at number 23, Bruce Hopkins as Gamling. Gamling is one of Theoden's most trusted men, basically his right-hand man throughout the movies. What I like about this performance is how natural and believable it feels. Bruce Hopkins plays him as a seasoned, battle-hardened soldier. Not overdone, just very grounded and capable. Like someone who's been through this many times before and knows exactly what he's doing. I especially like his voice. It's firm, steady, and has that slightly rough, experienced tone that really suits a veteran warrior. It genuinely sounds like someone people would follow into battle. As a character, Gamling is that reliable second in command. He's loyal, composed, and dependable, even when things are going badly, and that consistency really helps ground the chaos around him. Again, a small role, but part of some great scenes, like the ambush of the orcs on the way to Helm's Deep. Claiming the number 22 spot, we have Craig Parker as Haldir. And you might recognize him as Legatus Glaber from Spartacus, a show which I really like. And here he brings a similar kind of presence, just more restrained and noble. We mainly see Haldir in Lothlorien when the Fellowship arrives, and then again at Helm's Deep, where he leads the elves who come to aid Rohan. What I like about this performance is how composed and controlled it is. He brings that classic elven calm. But there's also a quiet strength behind it. Very disciplined, very focused, very capable and very experienced. His voice and delivery really stand out too, very measured and clear, with a natural authority that suits a commander. I also just really like Haldir as a character, and it's a shame we didn't get more of him, because he has a lot of potential. Even with limited screen time, Craig Parker gives a strong presence, and his death is actually quite sad, and that loss is truly felt by Aragorn. It really adds weight to the battle and the sense of sacrifice. Claiming the number 21 spot, we have Orlando Bloom as Legolas. And yeah, Legolas is one of my favorite characters in The Lord of the Rings, but unfortunately, I wasn't able to place him higher on the list. But what stands out about this performance is the physicality. Orlando Bloom brings a really fluid, effortless style to the role. The way he moves and carries himself just feels naturally elvish. And considering this was one of his first major roles, he was actually a very strong casting choice. Legolas doesn't have a lot of dialogue, but Bloom still makes him memorable through presence alone. There's this calm, slightly arrogant confidence about him, like he knows how capable he is, and it works really well for the character. He is sometimes kind of stiff in his delivery, but in a way that feels intentional, very sure of himself, very composed, with that slight elvish mystery behind him that makes him feel like a bit more distant and otherworldly. I also really like his dynamic with Gimli. Their friendship adds a fun, lighter layer to the story, especially during darker moments like the battles. It brings in some humor without taking away from the tone. As a character, he almost feels overpowered at times, just this highly skilled, precise warrior, and Bloom sells that in a very natural way. Although, at the Battle of Helm's Deep, he does kind of choke his shots against the one berserker running with the torch. Yeah, Legolas, you can do better than that. But yeah, he might not be the most expressive or dialogue-heavy role, but it's still a really solid performance, and one of my favorite characters. Coming in at number 20, we have John Rhys-Davies as Gimli. And again, also one of my favorite characters in the movies. And unfortunately, like Legolas, I can't really place him higher. But I generally really like Gimli. What I really like about this performance is how well he balances humor with genuine depth. Gimli is often a comedic relief, but it never feels forced. The humor comes naturally through his delivery and reactions. His friendship with Legolas is also a big highlight. It starts off with tension, but develops into something really fun and memorable, adding a lighter dynamic to the group, especially during darker moments. But it's not just comedy. There are some genuinely strong moments too, like in the Mines of Moria, when he sees the fallen dwarves, you can feel that emotional weight. It shows there's more to him than just jokes. He also has this kind of crazy confidence about him, always ready to fight, heading straight into dangerous situations, and John Rhys-Davies really sells that energy. As a character, Gimli is brave, loyal, and surprisingly heartfelt, and the performance makes him very likable. It's a really well-rounded performance, funny, emotional, and consistently engaging. Taking the number 19 spot, we have Hugo Weaving as Elrond. What I like about his performance is the balance that he brings. He has that strong sense of authority, very composed, very controlled. But there's also a lot going on underneath. You really see that in his interactions with Arwen. There's genuine care there, but also sadness and concern, especially when it comes to Aragorn being mortal. You can feel that internal conflict. He wants to protect his daughter, but he also understands the weight of her choice. His voice and delivery are very sharp and deliberate, which gives him that natural authority. But it never feels cold. There's always that emotional depth behind it. Elrond is a very capable leader and warrior, and has thousands of years of experience, which is reflected in the way he talks and acts. He's not just wise, but someone who has seen a lot and carries that with him. There's also this deeper sense of wisdom in the way he speaks and carries himself, like he understands things others don't, which adds a mysterious element. Overall, it's a really well-balanced performance. Authoritative, emotional, and thoughtful, all at once. Claiming the number 18 spot, we have Karl Urban as Eomer. What I really like about this performance is the intensity Karl Urban brings to the role. From the start, you can feel that fire. He's aggressive, emotional, and very driven, especially when it comes to protecting Rohan. He plays Eomer as a proud warrior, but not just blindly aggressive. There's a strong sense of loyalty and honor behind everything he does. His delivery is great too. There's a sharpness and authority in his voice that really fits a capable leader, especially in those more confrontational moments. He also has a strong physical presence. When he's on screen, you can tell he's someone experienced and reliable in battle. And then you get those standout moments, like when he returns with Gandalf at Helm's Deep to help turn the tide, and later when he takes down the Haradrim Elephant Rider. Those moments really highlight how capable and impactful he is as a character. And you also see more emotion come through as well, especially in moments of loss, which adds another layer to the performance. Overall, it's a strong, energetic performance that makes Eomer feel like a key part of Rohan's strength. Next up, we have Ian Holm as Bilbo Baggins. We mainly see him at the start in the Shire, during his birthday, and then again later in Rivendell. What I like about his performance is how warm and natural it feels. Ian Holm brings a kind of charm and comfort to Bilbo, but at the same time there's this subtle edge to him, especially when it comes to the ring. That moment in Rivendell where he suddenly snaps and reaches for the ring is a great example, and honestly a bit terrifying when you watch it for the first time. It's quick, but it's so effective, and you can really see the fear in Frodo's reaction, which makes the moment hit harder. His voice and delivery are also great, very gentle and inviting, but with just enough intensity when needed. As a character, Bilbo feels wise, slightly mischievous, and a bit worn by everything he's been through. It's not a huge role in the trilogy, but it's a great performance nonetheless that adds a lot to the emotional tone in the movies. Next up, we have Liv Tyler as Arwen, and I think she was a really great casting choice for this role. She genuinely feels almost otherworldly, very elven in the way she carries herself. There's this natural elegance and softness to her performance that really stands out and fits the world perfectly. Her voice especially is a big part of that. It's smooth, calm, and almost ethereal. And the way she delivers her lines adds to that sense of elven grace and timelessness. But what makes the performance stronger is the emotional side. She's not just this distant, mystical character. There's a real internal struggle there. She's torn between her love for Aragorn and her loyalty to her father, and also the weight of choosing a mortal life. You can feel that conflict in her expressions and delivery. She also has great moments of strength, especially when she saves Frodo and faces the Nazgul. She stands firm in her decisions and is this beautiful badass, which gives the character more depth beyond just being elegant or reserved. Overall, I'd say Liv Tyler really brings together that mix of elegance, emotion, and strength. She makes Arwen feel both otherworldly and very vulnerable at the same time, which isn't easy to pull off. Next up, we have Billy Boyd as Pippin, also known as Peregrine Took. What I really like about this performance is how much range he brings to the character across the films. Pippin starts off quite light-hearted, curious, and a bit careless, but over time you really see him grow into someone more aware and responsible. A lot of the humor comes from him, and Billy Boyd delivers it really naturally. It never feels forced, it just fits his personality and adds a lot of charm to the group. But what really stands out is the emotional shift. As the story progresses, especially when he ends up in Gondor, you start to see a more serious side. He begins to understand the weight of everything that's happening. And that scene where he sings for Denethor is a huge moment. It's quiet, emotional, and honestly quite haunting. It shows a completely different side of him and really highlights Boyd's range as an actor. He also brings a sense of innocence that makes the darker moments hit harder. You see him go from someone who doesn't fully grasp the danger to someone who's genuinely trying to do the right thing. There's also a lot of heart in his performance, especially in how he cares for others like Merry. That loyalty and friendship really come through. Overall, it's a really strong performance, funny, emotional, and full of development in the films. Next on the list, we have Dominic Monaghan as Merry. And I'd say this is a slightly stronger performance than Pippin's, mainly because of how grounded and consistent it feels across the films. Merry still has those lighter, humorous moments early on, but he comes across as a bit more aware and level-headed compared to Pippin. And as the story progresses, you really see him step up. What I like about the performance is how natural that growth feels. It's not sudden, it's gradual. He becomes more serious, more determined, and more capable as things get darker. His bond with Eowyn is a big highlight too. There's a quiet loyalty there, and the way he supports her adds a lot emotionally. And then during the battle, he really proves himself. He's not just comic relief anymore. He's brave, committed, and willing to fight. Dominic Monaghan plays all of that really well. It's subtle, but effective, and it gives Merry a bit more weight as a character. Overall, a really solid performance with a strong sense of growth in the movies. Claiming the next spot, we have David Wenham as Faramir. What I like about Faramir's performance is how nuanced it is. Faramir is a very conflicted character, and Wenham plays that internal struggle really well. A lot of it comes from his relationship with Denethor. You can feel that constant pressure and disappointment. Always being compared to Boromir, never quite measuring up in his father's eyes. There's a real sadness in the way he carries himself because of that. And then you've got that contrast of Boromir. Faramir is more restrained and more thoughtful, but still capable. It makes him feel like a very different kind of leader. His voice stands out too. It's quiet, soft, and deliberate, which adds to that reflective, controlled nature of the character. There are a lot of small, subtle moments in his performance, little looks, pauses, and line deliveries that add a lot of depth. Overall, it's a really strong, layered performance that makes Faramir feel human, conflicted, and believable. Claiming the number 12 spot, we have Miranda Otto as Éowyn. What I like about her performance is how emotional and human it feels. Éowyn is a strong character, but she's also clearly struggling, and Miranda Otto brings that out really well. You see a lot of that in her emotions. She's not afraid to show vulnerability, whether it's through her sadness, frustration, or the moments where she breaks down. She carries a lot of weight, and you can feel it. Her feelings for Aragorn are a big part of that too. She clearly loves him, but it's not returned, and that adds another layer to her struggle. It makes her feel more real and grounded, rather than just a typical warrior character. At the same time, she's still incredibly strong. She wants to fight, to prove herself, and not be held back. And that determination really comes through in their performance. Miranda Otto balances that vulnerability and strength really well. It never feels forced, it just feels natural. And of course her moment, "I am no man," is a very iconic line in the films as she slays the Witch King of Angmar. So it seems they can be killed. Next up is Brad Dourif as Grima Wormtongue. What I really like about this performance is how he fully commits to it. It's such a poisonous, slimy portrayal, and he just leans completely into that creepy, unsettling vibe. Everything about it feels off, in the best way. The voice, the whispering tone, the way he moves and looks at people, it's all very calculated and uncomfortable to watch. He makes Wormtongue feel manipulative and weak at the same time, like someone who hides behind others, but still has this dangerous influence. And what adds another layer is that moment with Saruman, when the Uruk-hai army is revealed. You can actually see the fear and almost tears in his eyes. There's a hint of humanity still there, like he realizes what's coming and feels some level of sadness for the people of Rohan. It's not an easy role to pull off without it feeling over the top, but Brad Dourif absolutely nails it. He goes all in, and it works perfectly for the character. A very memorable performance. And you genuinely don't like him. I mean, he's quite awful, which means he's just doing his job really, really well. Coming in at the number 10 spot, we have Sean Bean as Boromir. And as a character, Boromir's strong, capable, and a natural leader. But he's also quite flawed, and that's what makes him so interesting. You really see how the ring starts to corrupt him. He's more easily tempted than the others, but it comes from a genuine place. He wants to protect his people and save Gondor. That good intention is what makes his struggle feel so real. Sean Bean plays that balance really well. You can see both the strength and the weakness in him, and it never feels one-dimensional. And that moment after he tries to take the ring from Frodo, the regret in his reaction is so well acted. You genuinely feel sorry for him, and it adds a lot of depth to the character. He's also very loyal, playful, and protective, especially towards the hobbits. Those moments really show his good heart and upbeat nature underneath everything. And then, his death. It's one of the most emotional moments in the first film. The way he keeps fighting, even after being hit multiple times. And then that final scene with Aragorn. It's actually really touching, revealing that he would follow Aragorn and accept him as king of Gondor. Sean Bean brings so much weight to the role, and it's a very powerful performance. And of course, the "one does not simply walk into Mordor" speech is just iconic. That alone makes him legendary in the movies. Coming in at the number 9 spot, we have John Noble as Denethor. What I really like about this performance is how intense and unsettling it is. John Noble fully commits to the role and brings a kind of chaotic energy that makes Denethor feel unpredictable and hard to watch at times, but in a good way. He plays him as a man completely consumed by grief and pressure. You can feel the weight of Boromir's death in everything he does, and how that loss has completely broken him. His relationship with Faramir is especially tough to watch. There's this coldness and cruelty in the way he treats him, and Noble delivers that in a way that feels very real, not exaggerated. And then you've got those more extreme moments, like the way he eats while sending Faramir into battle. It's disturbing, but it really shows how far gone he is mentally. But underneath all of that, you can still see glimpses of who he was, a proud, capable ruler who's just been completely worn down. His voice and delivery are also great, sharp, erratic, and full of emotion, which adds to that unstable feeling. It's a bold performance, and he goes all in on it, but not a likable character, but a really powerful and memorable portrayal. RIP. Claiming the number 8 spot, we have Cate Blanchett as Galadriel. What I really like about her performance is how otherworldly it feels. Cate Blanchett brings this gentle grace to the role. Everything about her is calm, controlled, and almost timeless. Her voice is a huge part of that. It's soft, smooth, and almost hypnotic. And the way she delivers her lines makes it feel like she's speaking with deep wisdom and understanding. There's this constant sense that she's aware of far more than everyone else. She doesn't need to raise her voice or be forceful. Her presence alone carries authority. At the same time, you can clearly see that darker side within her, especially in the mirror well scene with Frodo. That sudden shift shows just how much power she possesses and how frightening it can be. And what makes it even better is that she's aware of that herself. You can feel that she fears what she could become, and that the ring is a real burden. Not just something she wants, but something she knows could corrupt her. In every scene, she just exudes wisdom. The way she moves, speaks, and looks at others. It all feels very deliberate and graceful. It's a graceful and dramatic performance. It's incredibly effective. She brings a sense of calm, power, and elegance that makes Galadriel feel truly special. Next up, we have Christopher Lee as Saruman. What I like about his performance is the sheer presence he brings. Christopher Lee just feels powerful. The way he speaks, the way he carries himself, everything has this commanding, almost majestic quality to it. His voice is a huge part of that. It's deep, controlled, and incredibly authoritative. Every line feels deliberate and weighty. And what makes it even more interesting is his real-life experience. He had actually seen war, and there's that famous detail where he corrected how a stabbing should sound, talking about the air being forced out of the lungs. That kind of knowledge just adds another level of authenticity to the performance. You can really see how much he commits to the role. Whether he's speaking calmly or showing anger, it always feels controlled and intentional. There's also this sense of intelligence and superiority in the way he acts, like he truly believes he's above everyone else, which fits Saruman perfectly. He just goes all in on that powerful, imposing presence, and it works really well. A commanding performance that makes Saruman feel like a real threat. And claiming the number 6 spot, we have Elijah Wood as Frodo Baggins. What I like about Wood's performance is how well he carries the weight of the ring. You can genuinely feel the burden. It's not just physical, it's emotional and psychological, and it gets heavier as the films go on. You can see that pain and loss of control building over time. The way he looks, the way he reacts. There's this constant tension, like he's struggling to hold onto himself. The pain almost exudes off the screen. Elijah Wood does a great job showing that slow decline. It's not sudden, it's gradual, and that makes it feel much more real. But what makes the performance even better is that he can also show the lighter, joyful side of Frodo. Early on in the Shire, you see that warmth and innocence, laughing, relaxed, carefree. Even later, there are small moments, like when he smiles at Sam or shares quieter scenes, where that original Frodo still comes through. And that contrast makes the journey hit even harder, because you remember who he was before the ring took its toll. There's also a vulnerability to Frodo that really comes through. He's not a typical strong hero. He's fragile, small, scared at times, but still pushing forward. And as the ring takes more of a hold, you can see how isolated he becomes. He starts to pull away from others, even Sam, which adds to that sense of loss. It's a very internal performance, but it's incredibly effective. You really feel what he's going through. Overall, it's a powerful portrayal of someone carrying something far beyond what they should have to bear. Claiming the number 5 spot, we have Viggo Mortensen as Aragorn. And what I like about his performance is how grounded and natural it feels. A big part of that is the subtle acting. It's actually quite difficult to pull off. He's not relying on big emotional speeches or dramatic moments, but on small expressions, tone, and presence. And he does that really well. He honestly feels like he was born for this role. You can tell how much he committed to it. Even off-set, he was known for carrying his sword around, fully immersing himself in the character. He really put everything into the role, and it really shows. And what's interesting is he almost didn't take it. He was quite unsure at first, but his son, who was a fan, encouraged him to do it. And that ended up being one of the best casting decisions ever. And a great little detail, in the scene where he kicks the helmet, he actually broke his toe, believe it or not. And I know this is kind of like a meme. But yeah, that was the take they actually used in the film. And it really just shows how much he was fully in it. There's a quiet confidence about him. He doesn't need to prove himself. And that comes through in how he speaks and carries himself. He's calm, measured, and very deliberate, which makes his presence feel strong without being over the top. You can also see that internal conflict, especially early on. He doesn't fully embrace who he is at first. There's doubt there, and a sense that he's holding himself back. And that development into becoming king is handled really well. His physical performance is also a big part of it. Everything feels real. The way he moves, fights, even the way he interacts with others. Nothing feels forced. There's also a lot of emotional depth, especially in his relationship with Aragorn. You can feel that weight and responsibility and how much it affects his choices. And when he steps into that leadership role later on, it feels earned. His presence becomes even stronger, but it still stays grounded. It's a very subtle performance, but that's what makes it so effective. Viggo Mortensen brings a lot of depth, realism, and quite strength to the character. Overall, a really powerful and well-executed performance. Honestly, pretty much perfect casting. Next up, claiming the number 4 spot, we have Bernard Hill as King Theoden. What I really like about this performance is how powerful and layered it is. Bernard Hill brings so much depth to the role. You really feel Theoden's journey and sense of renewal, from being broken and manipulated to finding his strength again. It's not just a sudden change. You can see that gradual return of purpose. The way his posture shifts, the strength coming back into his voice, even the way he looks at people. It all feels earned. He goes from being distant and worn down to someone fully present again. And what makes it even better is how he balances that strength with emotion. You can constantly feel the grief he carries, especially after the loss of his son. There's this underlying sadness in his performance that never really goes away, even when he steps back into his role as king. Then you get those standout moments. His speech and charge at Helm's Deep is incredible. The energy, the conviction, the way he inspires his people. It feels powerful and real. But he also has quieter moments that are just as strong. Moments where you can see the weight of leadership on him and the fear of what might come. And then, his death scene, it's genuinely heartbreaking. The way he speaks at the end, the softness in his voice, the acceptance, it really hits emotionally. It feels like a king who's fought, lost, and given everything. Bernard Hill just gives a brilliant performance. It's emotional, commanding, and deeply human, and it makes Theoden one of the most compelling characters in the trilogy. Coming in at number 3, we have Sean Astin as Samwise Gamgee. This is honestly one of the strongest performances in the entire trilogy. What makes it so good is the emotional depth he brings to the role. Sam isn't just a supporting character, he's the heart of the story, and Sean Astin plays that perfectly. From the very beginning, you get that loyalty and warmth. He's always there for Frodo, not just physically, but emotionally. He supports him, grounds him, and keeps him going when everything starts to fall apart. And that's where the performance really shines. In those emotional moments, you can feel everything he's going through. The fear, the determination, the frustration, the love, it all comes through so naturally. His speeches are also incredible. That moment about there's something good in this world to fight for, it's just iconic. The way he delivers it, the emotion behind it, it really hits. And then later, the I can't carry it for you, but I can carry you scene. That's one of the most powerful moments in the entire trilogy. What's impressive is how he balances that with simplicity. Sam isn't overly complex, he's just a genuinely good person, and Astin leans into that without overdoing it. He also shows real growth. He starts off as a slightly nervous, loyal companion, and becomes someone strong, brave, and willing to stand up for Frodo no matter what, even against Gollum. There's also a lot of subtle acting in his reactions. The look he gives, the concern, the quiet moments where you can see he's exhausted but still pushing forward. And throughout all of it, he remains that constant moral support. When Frodo is losing himself, Sam is the one holding everything together. Honestly, he's just a goated character, and Sean Astin absolutely nails the performance. It's emotional, powerful, and completely essential to the story. Next up, at the runner-up spot, we have Andy Serkis as Gollum or Smeagol. This is honestly one of the most impressive performances in the entire trilogy, and one of the most unique. What makes it so incredible is the duality. Serkis is essentially playing two characters in one, Smeagol and Gollum, and he switches between them so seamlessly. The internal conflict feels real, not exaggerated, and you genuinely believe both sides. The voice work alone is insane. The difference between the softer, more vulnerable Smeagol and the harsh, twisted Gollum is so distinct, and the way he transitions between them mid-conversation is just on another level. And a cool little detail, those weird choking, coughing sounds Gollum makes were actually inspired by the sound of his cats coughing out furballs. It's strange, but it adds to how unique and unsettling the character feels. But it's not just the voice, it's the physical performance too. Even though it's motion capture, every movement, every expression comes from Serkis. The way Gollum crouches, crawls, reacts, it's all so detailed and intentional. And what makes this even more impressive is that he essentially helped revolutionize motion capture performance. This wasn't just voice acting, it was full acting, translated into a digital character. He brought a level of realism and emotion to CGI that hadn't really been done like this before. And emotionally, there's so much depth. You actually feel sympathy for Smeagol at times. You can see that there's something broken there, something tragic, especially in moments where he's trying to be good, trying to trust Frodo. You almost want him to succeed. But then, that darker side always comes back, and that constant back and forth creates so much tension. He also plays obsession incredibly well. You can feel how consumed he is by the ring. It's not just desire, it's addiction. And that's what makes the performance so strong. It's a character with so many layers, trauma, and internal conflict. At the end of the day, Serkis completely immerses himself into the role, and it's genuinely brilliant. Coming in at the top, number one spot, we have Ian McKellen as Gandalf, and who else could it be? This is honestly the most incredible performance in the entire trilogy. What makes it so special is the authority and wisdom he brings to the role. From the moment he's on screen, you just believe him. He feels like someone who has lived for centuries, someone who understands the world on a deeper level. A huge part of that is in his eyes. The acting there is so detailed. You can see warmth, concern, fear, and strength, all just through his expressions. Sometimes he barely says anything, but you still understand exactly what he's feeling. His voice and delivery are also perfect. There's a calm, guiding presence when he's speaking gently, and then he can switch instantly to something more powerful and commanding when needed. He just feels like Gandalf. Honestly, it's one of those incredible performances where you can't imagine anyone else in the role. It's just perfect casting. What's impressive is how much range he can show. He can be wise and serious, but also warm, humorous, and even a bit playful, especially in scenes in the Shire. And then in darker moments, like facing the Balrog or standing against evil, he becomes completely commanding. He also brings a lot of emotional depth. You can feel how much he cares about the people around him, especially the hobbits. And that makes his guidance feel genuine, not just like a typical mentor figure. And then there are those iconic moments. You shall not pass. The delivery, the presence, everything about it is unforgettable. Ian McKellen just completely embodies the role. He plays Gandalf with such precision and care that it feels effortless, but you can tell how much depth is behind it. It's truly inspiring, incredibly powerful, and honestly one of the greatest casting choices ever made. A truly legendary performance. Alright, so that's my ranking of the top 25 acting performances in The Lord of the Rings. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree and how you would rank them yourselves. Also let me know what other videos or rankings you'd like to see next. Stay tuned for more fantasy content.